Most people have been talking about the cars inside Mat Armstrong's new Miami house. Some people focus on the massive garage space, while others talk about the clean, modern design of the property. A lot of fans were excited just to see Mat moving part of his lifestyle and content into America. But there was one part of the entire project that many people did not really pay attention to. It was not one of the supercars. It was not a wild engine build or a damaged hypercar getting repaired. The thing that quietly became one of the best transformations in the entire house was the garage floor itself. At first, it sounds like a small detail. Most people hear garage floor and think it cannot possibly be that important. But once the process started, it became clear that this was much more than a simple home upgrade. The team completely changed the feeling of the space from a basic garage into something that looked closer to a luxury showroom. What makes the project interesting is that it was not easy from start to finish. There were problems, delays, unexpected challenges, and a huge amount of hard work involved. That is why the transformation became so satisfying to watch. It showed that even something simple like flooring can completely change how a place feels when the work is done properly. The project also showed another side of Mat Armstrong that many viewers sometimes forget. He is not just someone who buys expensive cars and films them. He is deeply involved in the process, the planning, and the hands-on work behind many of his projects. The Miami garage became proof of that once again. While many people only notice a finished result, the real story was everything that happened before the reveal. That process is what made the transformation feel important. When the team first arrived in Miami, the excitement was obvious immediately. Moving operations into another country already creates pressure because nothing feels as familiar as working from home. In the UK, the team already understood where to get materials, who to call for help, and how everything worked. In Miami, things were different. New environment, different suppliers, different working conditions, and different expectations. Even though the house looked impressive from the outside, the garage itself still needed serious work before it could match the level of the cars that would eventually sit inside it. At first glance, many viewers probably thought the garage already looked fine. The space was large, open, and clean enough for normal use. But when the team really looked closely, problems started appearing everywhere. The old tile floor was uneven in multiple places. Some areas looked worn out, and the overall design felt outdated compared to the modern look Mat wanted. There was also a wall blocking part of the layout, making the garage feel smaller and less open than it could be. This is the moment where the project changed from a small improvement into a complete reset. Instead of simply covering up problems, the team decided to rebuild the space properly from the ground up. That decision immediately made the project more difficult, but it also made the final result far more impressive. Many people try to rush upgrades because they only care about what things look like on camera, but this project focused heavily on the foundation first. The team understood that if the base was not perfect, the final finish would never truly look premium. That mindset separated this build from an average quick renovation. The process became about precision and long-term quality. Rather than simply making the garage look flashy for a few videos, one of the most interesting parts of the transformation was how quickly the team moved once they made their decision. There was very little wasted time. After checking measurements and examining the condition of the garage, they immediately started removing walls and pulling up tiles. Watching the demolition process made it obvious just how much work was hidden underneath the surface. A garage floor may look simple from above, but underneath there can be cracks, uneven sections, and structural problems that completely affect the final result. The team knew that epoxy flooring does not hide mistakes. In fact, epoxy often makes flaws more visible because of its smooth and reflective finish. That meant every bump, crack, or bad section needed to be corrected before the coating process could even begin. This is where the hard physical labor started becoming a major part of the story. Dust filled the garage while the team spent hours grinding the entire floor surface. The process looked exhausting. Loud machines, heat, debris everywhere, and non-stop movement turned the clean garage into what looked more like a construction site. Many people watching the final reveal probably never realized how difficult this stage actually was. Social media often shows only polished final results, but projects like this are built on messy and uncomfortable work. Grinding the floor alone took a huge amount of effort because the surface needed to become perfectly prepared for the epoxy. If even small areas were left untreated, problems could appear later in the finish. This attention to detail became one of the strongest parts of the entire transformation. The team refused to cut corners, even when the work became frustrating. That attitude helped create a feeling of professionalism throughout the whole project. Instead of trying to move quickly just for content, they focus on doing things correctly. That is one reason the final result looked so much better than a normal garage renovation. Another reason this project became so engaging was because the script and video constantly showed how important teamwork was during the process. The project was not just about one person walking around giving instructions. Everyone became involved. Matt himself jumped into the work, instead of simply watching from the side. That small detail matters more than people realize because audiences can easily tell when creators are genuinely involved in their builds. Seeing Matt use a grinder and work alongside the team made the project feel authentic. It showed that he still enjoys the process itself, not just the attention that comes after posting the finished result online. The arrival of people like Diamond Dave also changed the energy completely. Once more workers joined in, the pace increased fast. Walls came down quicker. Debris disappeared faster, and suddenly the garage started opening up into a much larger space. Moments like this made the project feel alive because viewers could physically see progress happening step by step. One day the garage looked old and crowded, and the next day it already started looking more modern and spacious. That visual progression is extremely important for YouTube content because audiences love transformation stories. They enjoy seeing something move from rough beginnings toward a polished ending. The project also highlighted how valuable good relationships can be in business and creative work. At one point, the equipment supplier suddenly disappeared during the middle of the job. That could have created major delays because the team depended on those tools to continue working. In another country, without backup plans already prepared, the entire project could have slowed down badly. But because of strong connections and supportive people, help arrived quickly. Another team stepped in with tools and assistance, so the work could continue. This moment may have looked small in the video, but it actually represented something important. Big projects rarely succeed because of one person alone. Behind almost every successful build is a network of people helping solve problems when things go wrong. As the project moved forward, the transformation became even more impressive once the epoxy process finally began. Before this stage, most of the work involved destruction, preparation, and cleanup. But once the coating started getting poured, the garage finally began looking like a luxury space instead of construction zone. The team first focused on creating a perfect base coat. This stage was extremely important because the base layer affects everything placed on top of it later. Every crack had to be filled carefully, and every section needed smooth and even coverage. Watching the epoxy spread across the floor completely changed the atmosphere of the garage. Suddenly, the space started reflecting light in a way that made it feel larger, brighter, and cleaner. Matt even compared the appearance to an ice rink because the finish looked so smooth and glossy. That description actually fit perfectly. The garage no longer looked like a place for simple storage. It started feeling more like a high-end showroom where every reflection added to visual effect. But even during this exciting stage, the team still refused to rush. Once the first layer dried, small imperfections became visible again. Instead of ignoring those details, they went back and fixed every issue carefully before continuing. This part of the process says a lot about the difference between average work and premium work. Many people stop once things start looking good enough, but professional results usually come from patience during the final stages. The team even added another protective layer to help avoid future problems like bubbles or flaws appearing later. That extra effort may not always be noticed immediately by viewers, but it matters greatly over time. Good craftsmanship often involves work that people never directly see. What audiences eventually admire in the final reveal is usually built on dozens of careful decisions made earlier in the process. The design stage became one of the most visually satisfying parts of the entire transformation. Up until that point, viewers mainly watched preparation and technical work. But once the color pouring began, the garage started turning into something artistic. Matt chose a combination of white and gray tones, which gave the floor a clean marble-like appearance. The choice was smart because it matched both modern luxury style and automotive culture perfectly. Bright reflective floors help cars stand out visually, especially under strong lighting. Every reflection from the vehicles would now bounce across the smooth surface, making the entire garage feel more expensive and dramatic. What made the process interesting was the amount of control required during the pouring stage. The team could not simply throw colors onto the floor randomly and hope for a good result. They needed careful movement, timing, and technique to create the flowing marble effect properly. Watching the patterns slowly form across the garage became surprisingly satisfying because the design almost looked alive while the epoxy moved and blended together. Even after the team finished pouring, the process still continued overnight because the epoxy kept shifting slightly while drying. That movement actually improved the natural marble effect even more. This stage perfectly captured why so many people enjoy watching transformation videos online. It combines creativity with craftsmanship in a way that feels rewarding to watch. The garage stopped looking like a simple room and started looking more like a designed experience. Every section of the floor reflected light differently, creating movement and texture across the entire space. By the next morning, the difference was unbelievable. The old tile garage had completely disappeared. In its place was a smooth, reflective surface that looked closer to a luxury car showroom than a normal home garage. The transformation felt dramatic because viewers had already seen every difficult stage leading up to that point. One of the strongest emotional moments in the entire project came during the final reveal when Matt walked back into the completed garage. Reactions matter a lot in transformation videos because audiences want confirmation that the effort was worth it. The moment Matt removed his shoes and carefully stepped onto the new floor, his reaction immediately showed how successful the project had become. He looked genuinely impressed by the result. That authenticity made the reveal satisfying because viewers had already spent time watching the demolition, grinding, preparation, and design stages. Seeing the owner react positively gave the audience a sense of completion. The garage truly no longer felt like a standard garage. It looked polished, reflective, modern, and premium. Even small jokes during the reveal helped make the atmosphere feel natural and enjoyable. The comparison to Jake Paul's garage added humor, while also highlighting how proud the team felt about the final outcome. But underneath the jokes, the transformation represented something bigger than flooring. The project showed how attention to detail can completely change a space without changing its original purpose. At the beginning, the garage was simply a large room attached to a house. By the end, it became part of Mat Armstrong's overall brand and lifestyle image. It now matched the quality and excitement of the cars placed inside it. That is why so many viewers connected with the transformation once they saw the final result. It was not just about shiny floors. It was about creating an environment that felt worthy of the machines and content associated with Mat's channel. The project also reflected a larger trend happening across automotive culture today. More creators are turning garages into showrooms, studios, and entertainment spaces instead of simple storage areas. The garage becomes part of the content itself rather than just a background location. In the end, the most impressive thing about this entire Miami garage transformation was not simply the final appearance. It was the process behind it. The project showed how much hidden effort goes into creating something that eventually looks smooth and effortless on camera. Most viewers only see the polished final reveal online, but they do not always think about the planning, physical labor, problem solving, and teamwork required to reach that point. This build highlighted every one of those stages clearly. It showed walls being demolished, tiles being removed one by one, floors being grinded for hours, cracks being repaired, coatings being layered carefully, and designs being created slowly with precision. That journey is what made the transformation feel satisfying. It also revealed something important about Mat Armstrong's content style. His projects work well because they focus on progress and involvement rather than simply showing expensive things. Audiences enjoy seeing challenges solved and spaces improved step by step. The Miami garage became another example of that formula working successfully. What started as a basic tile room slowly transformed into a luxury automotive space that looked professional enough for a high-end showroom. The reflective marble-style floor completely changed the atmosphere of the garage and helped give the entire house a more premium identity. More importantly, the project reminded viewers that details matter. Sometimes the biggest difference in a space comes from the things people notice last. While everyone focused on the supercars and the house itself, the garage floor quietly became one of the best parts of the entire setup. That is why the transformation stood out so strongly. It was unexpected, carefully executed, and surprisingly artistic. In many ways, it perfectly matched the style of modern automotive content online, taking something ordinary, pushing it further than expected, and turning the process itself into entertainment. By the time the project finished, the garage no longer looked like a simple workspace. It became a centerpiece of the entire Miami property, and one of the cleanest transformations connected to Mat Armstrong's content so far. Another reason this project connected strongly with viewers was because it reflected the kind of content that audiences enjoy most on YouTube today. People are no longer interested only in seeing expensive items or luxury lifestyles. Viewers now care more about the process behind everything. They want to see challenges, mistakes, pressure, and hard work because those things make the final result feel earned. The Miami Garage project worked so well because it constantly showed progress. Every stage felt meaningful. One moment the team was removing broken tiles, and the next they were dealing with dust, grinding machines, and uneven surfaces. Then suddenly the project shifted into design and creativity once the epoxy started flowing across the floor. That steady progression kept the audience emotionally involved because viewers could clearly see how far the space had come from the beginning. It also helped that the transformation felt realistic instead of fake or overly scripted. Problems happened naturally during the project, especially when equipment issues appeared halfway through the build. Moments like that gave the story tension and unpredictability. Without those setbacks, the video could have felt too smooth and less believable. Instead, the challenges made the success at the end feel more rewarding. Another thing that